You ever think about morality? About the actions you're taking and how they affect others? About whether or not you're doing the right thing? Well, I imagine Ada Wong was asking herself these kind of questions during her stint in collecting rocks for Umbrella. The rules of the run are basically the same as Leon's, but I decided that this time about I wouldn't be using any bonus weapons just for extra challenge. Also, this is the third time ever I've done separate ways, so there's probably more optimization I could have done, but whatever. Hey, real quick, if you enjoy the video or you just want to help me out, please subscribe, like, comment, all the stuff. I really appreciate it. The game opens with Luis dancing in a jail cell for some reason before Ada hoists him out by crotch hook. The first Black Robe fight is basically a button check, reminding players about the shooting mechanics while also introducing Ada's starting kit. I had a bit of trouble here, having to blow through far more healing items than I would have liked this early, but found that generally keeping my distance was the most effective strategy against the encroaching force. When the Black Robe popped his clones, I popped a grenade, clearing out the fakes and allowing for cap popping directly into his ass. Or face, in this case. The rest of the chapter is pretty emblematic of the run in general. If Leon's campaign could best be described as picking and choosing your fights, Ada's could be summarized much easier with a single word: run. Ignore basically every enemy and just book it. Unless you have to fight something, don't. Grabbing the rifle on the way out, the chapter was cleared in just a few minutes. The first bit of Chapter 2 was a lot of the same, doing my best to run past enemies when I could, grabbing the ring for some extra cash, getting the yellow herb for health reasons, and taking way too many blows on the head to justify the health reasons. At the cliffside, I took out the medallions just because it was on the way and went over to the church, before Ada says the single least believable thing in a game about giant bug monsters. Ringing the bell to save Leon's life, it was time to head to the village. Worth noting here, you can kill the enemies who come over to the church if you're low on resources, which may be needed considering it's time for the second and worst Black Robe fight. So this fight sucks. His attacks aren't too bad to dodge, and again, the strategy of keep your distance definitely applies, but overall, I can't stand this one. Black Robe can teleport across the map, so keeping your distance is tricky. He has a giant leaping stab that has ridiculous range and closes any distance you manage to create, and most annoying, has a lance that is so disjointed, it reminds you this game was made by the same people that make Street Fighter. And it gets even worse when he brings out the clones. It's hard enough to get a good chunk of damage on him just because of the teleporting. Add in extra bodies, and escape becomes near impossible, let alone finding the time to line up a shot. Also, if you're ever trying to change directions or escape an enclosed area, there's an approximately 100% chance the bastard will just teleport right into your face. Eventually, I was able to get into a hit-and-run mentality, and after a solid 3 hours of attempts, some luck, and a well-timed flash grenade, I was able to clear this nightmare of a boss fight. The chapter ends with Ada saving Leon's life again, making this one of the most reoccurring things in the game alongside Ashley getting kidnapped and Leon getting his ass kicked. Chapter 3 time. I grabbed the key behind the painting and got ready for another cardio session. Running from Mendez and his goons was pretty easy, but it's a good thing I managed to do it first try because I didn't save after the Black Robe fight, and I don't want to think about what I'd do to my computer if I had to do it again. Making my second save at the factory, I debatably could have saved later, but it's fine considering I was a bit nervous about pushing my luck any further. Stealth killing the first few enemies before heading to the basement, the escape was easy. See, you can't take damage while turning the crank, so it's totally 100% safe. Maybe. Once back in the chief's house, I took care of these two enemies so I could shop safely, and bought the recipe for blast arrows and a level 2 case upgrade, which ended up being sufficient for the run. Running past the enemies in the village, I grabbed the pearl necklace and headed on to the giant fight, and much like Black Robe, this one took a while. The main gimmick is that there are these rooftops you can grapple to avoid the giant and the enemies. Problem is, they're breakable, and giants tend to be good at that. I wish I had some sort of strategy to offer here, but honestly, I was just running for my life and avoiding the ground troops unless necessary. This thing is a bullet sponge. Eventually, though, I was able to wear it down, getting a cutscene that I'm sure won't awaken something in anyone before moving right along to Chapter 4 and the castle. In what is surely the worst thing that will happen to him all game, Ada threatens Luis before the two set off on a fetch quest to get some medicine. When I got to the burning lab section, I used this little gap and the neglected crouch button to skip past a decent chunk of it, letting me speed past to begin my grocery shopping. I took a quick stop at the merchants to get the recipe for flash grenades and some gun upgrades before heading off to get the red ink. After a quick visit with Leon and a save before the spike drill room, which in hindsight I should have done after, but whatever, it was time to go challenge the knights in the dungeon. The first two were easy to deal with, sniping the first and using the melee prompt, knocking the other's helmet off, then using a flash grenade. The next one was just a matter of, again, hitting a rifle round before unloading 2 shotgun blasts into the weak point, its main body, but the last 3 were trickier. I was able to knock off the first 2 helmets with a shotgun blast each, then used 2 on the third and flash them all to barely survive the encounter. After some fishing, it was time for Red Robe in the hedge maze. Now, what is supposed to happen here is that I flash him, shoot him twice with the rifle, knife attack, then use the TMP to quick kill him. As you can see, this did not happen. Still, I was lucky enough to get him right in front of the door before I took him down, letting me grab the butterfly and finish the chapter. I grabbed the crown in Chapter 5, which turned out to be one of the biggest happy accidents in the run before heading off to the waterway. After dispatching some enemies, I shot the lock off the gate with the rifle before lowering the water in the channel and making my 4th save at the merchants, and boy, did this one come surprisingly in handy. Fuck these stupid bugs. Double Gyarados were also a bit of a pain. Whether it's down to the little enemies making it almost impossible to sneak up on these guys, their random turning, or knife prompts deciding to not work, these guys took a while. Eventually, I got through with explosives. Lots of explosives. One more save before Black Robe round 3, and using the crown and a lamp I'd picked up, I bought a rocket launcher. Between the 2 phases of the Black Robe 3 fight, or Passantas as the pause menu calls it, I think the first is easier if you're on point with your reaction times. Just be ready for QTEs and keep your distance. The second phase is a blowout, and the next part is easy. Watch Krauser Mario long jump for some reason, and relax in this totally safe area. So, after some swearing and sober second thought, I made another save, marking 6 total in an area I definitely shouldn't have needed to use one at, and yet still died to many times anyways. Booking it to the end area, it was time for Chapter 6. After ditching Leon on a boat, Ada begins her portion of the island, and it was only after playing this game a few times that I realized Wesker came to the island expecting Ada to double-cross him, hence he came to get the parasite himself. Anyways, of all the chapters in this game, this one is the biggest example of the whole run philosophy I mentioned earlier. Sure, doing so might get you killed more than once, but having made yet another save at the start of Chapter 6, horrible mileage, I know, it proved to be an effective enough strategy. I made sure to kill the Regenerators as I ran for the sake of hitting ornate beetles, which is very easy to do with the Stingray and the Bioscope, before running past everyone to get to the cable car section. I managed to snipe a few enemies, but after a while I began running around in circles as arrows flew around me from all directions, which somehow worked. After making my 9th save, it was time for turrets. Another section that took a while, this one has a few optimization tricks. First, by aiming at specific parts of the bunkers, around the pole on the one on the right and around the boxy protrusion on the one on the left, you can disable the turrets early, letting you grab a gold bar and kill a bug for another request. Now, on paper, you can take out the 3rd turret by baiting the enemy into the line of fire to skip this next bit, but I haven't mastered that skill yet, so I took the long way. The long, very dangerous way. After clearing the turret section, I was trying to use another skip I learned in the lab, but I forgot where it was and died like an idiot. At this point, I'm upset with myself. Anyways, you know the drill, take 2, everything went fine, chapter complete, except no, I had to die in Chapter 7 and go back. I also had to lose the footage of my reattempts because of course I did. Point is, I got through, made my final save at the start of Chapter 7, and made my way to Sadler. Anyways, back when I did Leon's run, I mentioned that I had never beaten Sadler in a fight legit, and this run is no exception. Fun fact, this is the most I have seen of this fight. The run for the red rocket took a few tries, but it wasn't too bad aside from rocket launcher enemies who can kill you in one hit, something which, again, I don't have footage of, and with Leon getting one final explosive gift, I have to imagine Sadler is getting very tired of explosions at this point. With Ada and Leon going their separate ways, she decides to take one final heroic act, choosing to answer the question plaguing her mind since the start of the run. Because while she may be far from the most upstanding person in the world, in the end, she did decide to do the right thing. Now let's hope she's good enough at avoiding trouble to stay alive. Maybe I'll give her a hand in getting some practice in.